Hello, my name is Ramesh Kanano. Today I'm going to be demonstrating tasks 4 and 5 of my Big Data and Data Systems coursework, case study Flying Part Circus. Let's get into it. So so 4A essentially asked to filter out and show the highest and lowest sales representatives in terms of total sale orders that we've made. So in order to do that, I've grouped together the tables of employee and order and of employee and order in order to see which employee has done which orders and how many of them they've done. And the count that I've done there counts for both order ID and also total sales. The sales representative then gets placed into a descending order, a descending list, with the top one being the highest amount, as you can see here with Chloe Evans. If I just run it again, still Chloe Evans with 4 total sale orders. And this is because, and the only reason she's the only one that gets selected is because it says select top one, so that's at the very top of the list's array, whichever one we want to say, due to it being in ascending order. If I go into the other one, the only thing I've changed for lowest is instead of descend, ascend, so the top one will always be the lowest. So if I press execute, it should be lower than 4. Of course, Dylan Jones 3. This shows his employee ID, which is what we've had here, and his total sales orders, which is 3. The only hiccup in this is if more than one person has the lowest or highest, then it doesn't show any of them because it only shows the top one. So that's something to work around on. Moving on. The next one is order status, showing if an order has been completed, incompleted. So essentially, let me get that up. Paid order status. Oh, already ran that as a test. Select order status. So this essentially selects order status, and then what's it called? It does a count on the order ID. Same thing with the highest and lowest. It checks, and then it orders it. And then that count goes into paid and unpaid, which is complete and incomplete, and that also gets stored in descending order, with paid being first and then unpaid being second. And it goes for every order. And it checks this status because it checks each order ID. It goes through all of them, and then each time it gets one, it gets added either to paid or unpaid. And so, for example, when I run it here. There we go. Paid becomes 14 and pending is 6, showing that there have been 4 complete payments and 6 incomplete payments in the process. Moving on to low stock, to task 4C. So low stock supply, supply. So this one essentially selects the selects the part again. Sorry. So this one essentially gets these fields selected from parts, the table parts, as you can see over here. Checks the part ID, description, quantity, and stock minimum stock. The biggest thing here is the statement where determines if the quantity in stock is less than the minimal stock level. This is important due to a minimal stock level determining if a part will be out of stock or not, and if the quantity stock is less than, then it gets determined as out of stock or low stock. So if I'm to run it, I've had 20 records in here, and let's see how many of them are low in stock. Oh, there we go. So 11 out of 20 records are low in stock, and as you can see here, every single quantity in stock is less than its minimal stock. This shows filtering through the database in order to find specific information that we need. Perfect. Moving on to 4D, a trigger demo. There we go, triggers. Procedures automatic reordering of parts when they drop below their minimal stock level. So this works with 4C essentially. So let me just go to the demo. There we go, auto recording trigger. This trigger it's already been run, and it's already been created. and this essentially, once a piece of part is out of stock, it will essentially, as soon as it's out of stock, the trigger will make a note of it and record it. So for example, let's look at these again. So let's say, for example, let's think 49, that perfect. So 41093337 should be in stock. So let's just give it a double check quickly. Let's create a new one then. And let's execute that. Yep, so the quantity in stock is above its minimal stock. So what I'm gonna do now is update parts. Quantity in stock to has to be less, so let's just set it to 1, and then where part ID 41093337. Let's execute that. Perfect, it's been updated. And now let us see if a record has been added to the procedure from reorder request. Let's execute. And perfect, as you can see here, 337 has been added due to it being under stock, and its reorder status is pending, which means it's waiting to be reordered. As you can see here, I tested this beforehand as well. For 247, same thing. Moving on to E. To task E, which is write a stored procedure that can generate a complete invoice. Perfect. So let's go over to my invoice that I created. This essentially gets all the fields that are needed from each of the tables. So for example, customer ID, name, address, that's all that's needed, and name and phone. Order, the order ID, date, shipping, billing, all that. So this essentially gathers all the essential information for the invoice, and then when I continue with this procedure, which is get invoice, it will run through all of this. So let's just go to a blank one again, and let's run the procedure. Execute get invoice, and let's see invoice 3006, and apologies. There we go. So order 3006, the customer ID is 206, and this is the order. And we can double check with 7 as well. 7 shows up too. Perfect. So now I'm going to move on to my dashboard. This just makes a visual representation of essentially what I've gone through a bit easier for the eyes. So as you can see, orders per sales representative. In this box, it shows all the orders, it shows all the sales representatives and how much they've dealt with. As you can see here, there are similar ones. That's something we're going to need to work on. What else? So we've also got the parts. This shows the parts, the stock level of them, and if they're in stock or out of stock too. So as you can see here, sum of quantity, most of them are all in stock. The majority are all in stock, and it totals it up all at the end. See? All of them are here, and it shows their sum and how much everything is. Over here, I've demonstrated the use of pie charts in order to split the paid and pending order statuses to see how much of the company's orders have actually been paid, and this is looking good due to the paid being the majority, 7%. 30% is just pending, could be part-time payments. I'm not too sure about that. But, oh, yeah, perfect. And then this one. And then this table over here represents the parts that are like out of stock as well, and then once they've been reordered, if it's pending or if it's already been purchased. And this also shows a date where they were purchased by, and potentially when it will be back in stock. So it's still out of stock technically, because some of current stock is full, some of minimal stock is 20. Makes a bit of a nicer visualization. Thank you so much for looking at my tasks 4 and 5.